Jana Ballava Giribaradhare Gopi Jana Ballava Giribaradhare Yashodanandana Vraja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Vraja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachare Yamuna Tira Vanachare Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihare Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihare Gopi Jana Ballava Giribaradhare Gopi Jana Ballava Giribaradhare Yashodanandana Vraja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Vraja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachare Yamuna Tira Vanachare Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihare Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihare Jai Prabhupada, Jai Prabhupada, Jai Prabhupada, Jai Prabhupada Jai Prabhupada, Jai Prabhupada Prabhupada, Jai Prabhupada Jai Jai Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada Jai Jai Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada Jai Vishnupad Paramahansa Paramahansacharis Tadasasi Srimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki ISKCON's founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Shri Shri Radha Radhanath Ki Shri Giri Govardhan Ki Sankirtan Yagya Ki Gaur Premanande. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Rupa with the Hitar Upayeme Brahmim Nama Tatsutal Kalpavatsara Maitreya Prajapatir Vacha. Of Shishuma was very anxious for self-realization. Kalpa and Vatsara were born of her. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharane Niravishesha Shunyavadi Pastyachade Jatarne Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadha Shivas Adi Gaura Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Yes, so we're beginning this 10th chapter of the 4th canto, which is titled Dhruva Maharaja's Fight with the Yakshas. And when we get to that, the particular incident of Dhruva Maharaja's fight with the Yakshas, anyway, that's a very dramatic pastime, and there are definitely things to be learnt from that. But there's also some things to be learnt from this. We've been going through the story of Dhruva Maharaj for some months now, and many important points have come up. And the point which Prabhupada is focused on here, emphasizing here, is also a very, very important point, that generally speaking in Vedic culture, it is the duty of the parents, and particularly the father, to get his sons and daughters married and not have them just sort of, well, unmarried, because when they're unmarried, you never astrology. Pulls people are just more degraded, actually. That's the first problem. People are more degraded, and therefore the people are more degraded, first of all. But second is that you can't find, as far as I'm aware, you actually cannot find anyone like astrologer, that sort of person, or even palmists, these types of people who are really that qualified. Yes, it's not even rare nowadays. Basically you would say they just don't exist. Not that nobody doesn't know anything about these things, but when you talk about expertise, extreme expertise, then you can't find it. So combining all these different factors, you end up with problematic marriages. Anyway, you end up with so many problematic marriages, and we see that, unfortunately, from time to time, that some devotee couple who we may know personally, and we may feel they may be nice devotees, but they just, after some time, they cannot tolerate being together. It just becomes too much for them, and so they part ways permanently. So, but in the Vedic culture, like we said, Prabhupada says that Maharaj Uttanapad, the father of Dhruva, he was very affectionate, particularly after Dhruva Maharaj returned from the forest. Before Dhruva Maharaj went to the forest, that was kind of another thing. But when Dhruva Maharaj had returned, his father was just so deeply attached to him and affectionate to him, just totally committed to Dhruva. And, as Prabhupada says, it is the duty of a father to get his sons and daughters married as quickly as possible. Means, as quickly as possible when they are ready enough. So why did he not get his son married before he left home? Uttanapad himself left home. Why not? He just, as soon as he reached the point, Uttanapad, the father, as soon as he reached the point that he realized that I should leave home, Shri Shri Radha Radhanath Shri Giri Govardhan Shri Caitanya Mahaprabhu Ki Jai. As soon as he reached the point where he felt he should leave home on one hand, but on the other hand he could see Dhruva is qualified to run the kingdom, soon as that point was reached, he was gone. He was just gone. And Dhruva was unmarried. But one way or another doesn't actually explain here how it was worked out, but one way or another it was worked out. And sometime, not so long after Uttanapad left home, Dhruva Maharaj was married to the daughter of Prajapati Shishumar. So one of the Prajapati's progenitors of mankind, very qualified person. I mean, the father, Shishumar. At least there is a constellation of stars named after him, Shishumar. And doesn't mention here whether he was the father of those stars. That might sound a little extraordinary, but there were some of the Prajapatis were parents of planets. So, yes. Yeah, and appearance of different species of living entities, not just humans, but anyway, it was a whole thing that went on at that time, right at the beginning of creation, the populating or the development of the universe, including the populating of it. So Dhruva Maharaj married the daughter of Prajapati Shishuma. Means the father, Shishuma, was a highly qualified person. And so he married his daughter, Brahmi, and she would also have been extremely qualified. So the point that Prabhupada focuses on in the purport, and it's a point which comes up from time to time, is that Krishna consciousness is so important. It is more important than anything. Just literally anything. If you've got an opportunity to become Krishna conscious, like a good opportunity to become Krishna conscious, you should just take it. Like sometimes we hear that if about greed in like extreme enthusiasm for Krishna consciousness, we hear that if Krishna consciousness is available in the marketplace, just go and get it. That's all. Don't think about it. Don't, sort of debate about it. Just go get it. Just go get it. Because it's so valuable. You cannot put a value on it. It is invaluable. You should just do it and just get it immediately. Particularly if like a more advanced level of Krishna consciousness is available, like particularly love for Krishna is available in the marketplace. Yeah, don't even think about it. Just get it. So Krishna consciousness is like that. And Maharaj Uttanapad, he understood that. And he really felt like that. So as soon as Dhruva, it was particularly as soon as Dhruva was ready to take over the kingdom, then just one day, just like almost the next day, in fact, perhaps actually the next day, Maharaj Uttanapad was just not there. He was just gone. Like it's described about Bharat Maharaj, that when he reached that point, that one day his family members just looked around and realized, hey, he's gone. Where'd he go? What happened? Because he just left during the night. There was no farewell party with speeches about it's been so nice knowing you and such a wonderful person and how much good he did and all that, and then a big feast at the end, and then presents for for your renunciation, gifts and all that sort of thing. Some devotees were telling me just day before yesterday, Sunday night, they were at a wedding, like a really traditional Hindu wedding, and there was a ceremony, the gift-giving ceremony. You've all been to Hindu weddings, who hasn't? The gift-giving ceremony, there was a day for it, and there were a couple of thousand relatives and friends, and they were related to the bride. They had to stand there for 3 hours meeting the people and smiling. They said their jaws were painful from smiling for 3 hours. They just had to, saying, thank you, thank you, thank you, a couple of thousand times. Yeah, so when Bharat Maharaj left home, they just, the next morning they looked around and they realized he's gone. And similarly, the same thing actually, in the first canto, chapter, when Dhritarashtra leaves home with his wife Gandhari, and Vidura also went with them. When they left home at night, and they didn't tell anyone. And just everyone means the Pandavas. Yudhisthira was the king, and his brothers and the people of the palace. They woke up the next morning and they realized they've gone. And Narada Muni suddenly arrived, and Yudhisthira speaks to him and expresses his disappointment that they just left. And Yudhisthira tells Narada, I have been cheated by these great souls, in the sense they just left, abandoned us. So, but anyway, the point here is that Krishna consciousness is of such extreme value, incalculable value, and particularly like advanced Krishna consciousness. So like we said, and Prabhupada talks about it, that if it's available in the marketplace, just go and just get it. Similar or similar related situations there with Srila Prabhupada. If you're familiar with the biography Lilamrita and the story how Srila Prabhupada met Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, then you would know Srila Bhaktisiddhanta was doing a program. Anyway, he was doing a program in Calcutta, and Srila Prabhupada went. Actually, the way Prabhupada explains it is that one of his cousins, Narendranath Malik, literally physically dragged Prabhupada to the program. Prabhupada, at least this is what he says, he really didn't want to go. And because he wasn't generally impressed by the sadhus of the day. And he thought, this is just another one of these sadhus. There's so many of them. He'd had experience with his own father when he was young. He had experienced that his father, every day, literally, at lunchtime, before taking lunch, his father would walk out of the front door onto the main street, and their house was on some busy street, and he would just call out, anyone here hungry? And if you are, just come in. So Prabhupada, if you've read that, you would remember probably Prabhupada said that there was never a day when there was less than 3 guests, total strangers. Every day, at least 3 in the house eating their lunch before they got to eat lunch. And Prabhupada saw that they were sort of sadhu, quote unquote, types, But some of them, Prabhupada saw, in the morning they'd go to work dressed in white. In the afternoon, the same person would be dressed in saffron, begging on the street outside their house. Yeah, because, well, supplementary income. You know what it's like nowadays. Have a lot of devotees work 2 jobs. So supplement your income by dressing up in saffron and going and begging as if you're a sadhu. But Prabhupada saw, this is no sadhu. He's just some working fellow, like some laborer or something, just trying to get some extra money. Of course, another thing that Prabhupada said, just to go back a minute or a few, about the duty of the father, Prabhupada says that he, because he was a father of 4 children, 4 or 5 children, and Prabhupada was not so quick as far as getting his children married was concerned. And as I recall, it was the daughter reached the ripe old age, if I remember correctly, of 12, and she was not married yet. And as I recall, Prabhupada's wife said, if you don't get her married like now, like really soon, I will commit suicide. Wow, look at this. Hare Krishna. Thank you. Hare Krishna. But anyway, Srila Prabhupada, when he first met Srila Bhaktisiddhanta for the very first time, like we said, I'm sure you all know the story, it's so well known, his cousin more or less, physically dragged him to the program because Srila Prabhupada just didn't feel confident that this sadhu is going to really be worth meeting and hearing from, because surely Prabhupada had other things to do also. So, but anyway, when they got there and Srila Prabhupada was listening, he was struck so deeply by the knowledge and the wisdom of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. It was a really overwhelming experience for him, but still, at the end of the class, when it was questions time, Srila Prabhupada felt inspired to ask a question, because Prabhupada, of course Prabhupada's a transcendental person and we shouldn't, start thinking he's anything else, really. But he said that he was a follower of Gandhi. And Gandhi, of course, this is like, what would it be? The 1920s, I think. Something like that. So Gandhi and his philosophy and his whole movement was extremely popular in India at the time, and you had to wear khadi, means cloth like this. This is khadi. It's not been made by machine. It's been made by hand. The actual cloth has been, whatever they do, but done by hand. That was one of Gandhi's one of his main principles. You must do that. So Prabhupada, apparently, as some sort of follower of Gandhi, he was wearing khadi. So anyway, there he was, and he's just very impressed, but still he wanted to ask a question, so he asked that, Prabhupada said that our country is under the foreigners, and therefore our culture and everything is suppressed. So shouldn't we get free first of the foreigners, and then we'll focus on Krishna consciousness? Because Srila Bhaktisiddhanta had been saying that in his class that Krishna consciousness is just exclusively important, and you cannot compare it, and including in terms of importance and like urgency, necessity. You can't compare it to anything, including what they called Swaraj. Swa means your own or our own. Raj, government. Yeah. Kick the Brits out. Yeah, boot them out. And we'll take over India for the Indians. So Prabhupada presented something like that, you're saying Krishna consciousness is so important exclusively, but we are what term did he use? Not a slave nation, but anyway, something like that. We're like prisoners, and we should get free from our sort of imprisonment first, then we'll practice Krishna consciousness. And you can read the discussion there in the Lilamrita. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta answered that no, Krishna consciousness is just so exclusively important. It cannot wait. It cannot wait. We must become Krishna conscious now. And political arrangements, in due course, whatever will happen, will happen. So, which is the same point, which is being made here, that Krishna consciousness is exclusively important. And it cannot wait. It must not wait. Yeah. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, amongst the sadhus of the day, even the very famous ones of the day, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta was one of the extremely few who accepted that and preached that and practiced that. The rest, the vast majority, just such a vast, we're talking about well into the 90-something%. They were all thinking of the sadhus, even the famous sadhus. They were all thinking, we must get the British out, then we'll practice our culture and our religion. So the way Srila Bhaktisiddhanta presented that to Srila Prabhupada, his extreme expertise and just genius in presenting things on one hand, and Srila Prabhupada, his sort of readiness on a deeper level within his heart from before. Prabhupada on the spot was convinced. He was just convinced on the spot that that's true. Just got to become Krishna conscious now. and Gandhi and all that, politics, just forget it. So Srila Prabhupada said that he accepted Srila Bhaktisiddhanta as his guru at that time, on the spot. He understood, this is it. This is the person who understands the truth and can give me the truth. Yeah. So that's there. And it's still a fact today. It's still a fact today. I remember, maybe I shouldn't even mention it, but I remember when the ANC first became the government, a few days later, one of the local representatives of the ANC came and visited us right here. Anyway, downstairs, in the office down there, and tried to convince us that we must get behind the ANC and sort of affiliate ourselves, all that sort of thing, because their philosophy is the same as ours. And this fellow, he tried his best. I'm happy to say he wasn't successful, but he really tried to convince us more or less that ISKCON should join the ANC. Ah, Krishna. Oh dear. But anyway, but Krishna consciousness is actually uniquely important, and so Uttanapad understood that. He understood that, particularly when Dhruva returned. It was such a wake-up call for his father, such a wake-up call that he became really fixed in spiritual life, in Krishna consciousness. So, as soon as it was possible, he just left home, even though Dhruva was not yet married. But I'm sure he felt, Prabhupada doesn't actually mention that, but I'm sure he felt, oh, it'll happen sooner or later. Because generally these things do happen sooner or later. That people who want to get married or should get married, they do get married by Krishna's arrangement. So anyway, Maharaj Uttanapad knew very well that to get his son Dhruva Maharaj married was not so important that it should take preference to his going away to the forest for self-realization. Hare Krishna. Any comment or question? We have a microphone. No. Oh, yes, sorry.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. We've seen devotees such as your good self and many other of Prabhupada's followers also saw the urgency of Krishna consciousness, and you've given yourself fully. Many thousands such devotees. But we see some devotees, at least, towards the later part of their life now, maybe experiencing some difficulty, at least materially speaking. So we can understand that they're very special souls and have made undoubtedly such great spiritual advancement. But I guess it's sometimes challenging for others to see. Then they question, well, what was the point? I mean, of course we know as devotees, we know the point. But for others they may think, well, you gave your life, you gave your youth, and, well, what do you have now? Now you're struggling. So, how can we understand this ourselves and have the firm faith ourselves and also explain to others.
Well, we are not on the level of Maharaj Uttanapad. Even at the best, we're not on the level of Srila Prabhupada, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, we're not. But, if we just say that, take a case where this happens, it's not that in all cases it happens. It's definitely not. But there are cases, I know a number, I have known a number personally very well. So I would say, one point is that whatever efforts were made and service was done when they were actually more, at least, in that mood of really just being fully absorbed and fully surrendered and fully engaged, there's no loss or diminution. That point is definitely there. That's Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, verse 40. So that's one part of the sort of situation or the calculation. But having said that, everyone needs a mentor or even mentors who we can take guidance from. Generally, I said everyone needs. I would say that basically it's true. Everyone needs. Yes, so therefore, in some of the, because there are many, or however many there were, who they accepted a renounced position and they carried on for some years, even like well into middle age or whatever. I don't know, I don't know about approaching old age. Probably there are cases. And then they thought, gee whiz, they had a change of heart to some degree. But when Prabhupada was present, there were a lot who felt like that. When Prabhupada was actually present. So we're talking about young men who are in their 20s or maybe early 30s, but more just in their 20s. And it was like a whole thing. There was a mantra, take sannyas, not grihast. There was a mantra. And there were so many young men who thought like that. Some of them did actually do it. Not many, but some definitely did. Some, many more, they had the idea, but then before they did it, they realized, wait a minute, it's not really the right thing for me. So they became householders. The great majority, actually. But then some much smaller number then actually carried on, and some are still carrying on. But then, like you were saying, there are others who reached a certain point where they're no longer young. Yeah. But they had, they felt they needed to take up a different way of life or a different approach to Krishna consciousness. And for them, some of them found it difficult. Others, I won't mention any names, but even like some who were householders living in the temple as householders until they're, say, 40-something, and then for whatever reason they move out, but they've got no university degree, they've got no working experience, and now they're 40 or 45, and they've got no money because they were just doing devotional service. And some of them felt a bit even resentful, like they got cheated. But, and again, I won't mention any cases, but, you know, a number of them who I do know personally, because they had done a lot of Sankirtan, selling, they're staying outside with their family, and they got nothing, practically, but they started selling things and became multi-millionaires. No kidding. Right here in Johannesburg, at least. Yeah. If not, and I mean, yes, multi-millionaire, at least one multi-millionaire who came out 40-something and really sort of upset with ISKCON and Krishna, but then he became a multi-millionaire. Because in ISKCON he learned how to sell almost anything. Yeah. But others, they sort of plodded along. Yeah, and you know, I see some of them sometimes. And they're Krishna conscious, they're engaged. Yeah. I don't know of examples who just their lives became like total disasters and they just ended up on the street, you know, like literally on the street with nothing. Yeah. So, but yeah, you know, we all need I mean, this is becoming more clear in ISKCON, the need for mentorship for everybody. And, you know, when there's good mentorship, then it's less likely that people, devotees, will go off on some sort of, in some direction in Krishna consciousness, and then later on will feel that, you know, they just made a big mistake and what to do, life has kind of passed them by already. So therefore I would say we need good mentorship. We're getting more and more, and we need more. And that'll help devotees from, you know, like particularly prematurely making advanced types of decisions. Yeah, how does that sound?
Thank you, Maharaj.
Anyway, these are just some thoughts. But it's definitely a fact that there's no loss on the transcendental level. There's no loss or diminution. Yeah. And in the future, even if it ends up being next lifetime, great mercy will come. Great mercy will come. Yeah. Hare Krishna. Okay. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.